Long live the king indeed. Music from Livan here on Passports Approved, and opposed to long live the queen, long live the king. And joining us live in the studio all the way from London via Greece, or via Greece via London, is Livan. Good morning and welcome to Los Angeles.
Good morning, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me.
So you and I have been talking for a few months now. I saw you in London during my recent visit, and I was kind of intrigued by your music. Not just from a musical perspective, but also from a visual perspective, and it's very nice to have you in the studio because sometimes it's difficult when you hear a song, to try to visualize. But I went on your website, Googled you and YouTubed you, and saw that you were doing some very interesting things with your music from a visual perspective. And maybe you can give us a bit of a background on what is Livan, who is Livan, and what's inspired you, musically speaking, of course.
Sure. I mean, it's very difficult to put it in a nutshell, but basically what inspires me and what I try and do and what I like is performance-based artists. From the era of the David Bowies to Freddie Mercury's and performers like that just don't exist anymore, especially in the UK. And UK was a country that produced a lot of these performers, and it's just stopped doing it. In the US there still are, but not back home. So it's I've always enjoyed it. I've always believed that when you pay good money to go and see a show, you got to see a show, and not shoegazing, and that's what we get in London nowadays, I'm afraid. So I'm trying to change that.
Well, you're definitely not a shoegaze. In fact, you're not wearing any shoes today. Just sandals. And one of the things that fascinated me about your live performance was that, again, it's very theatrical. Sure. There's elements of this band called Shriek back from the 80s.
Okay.
And also an almost like Nine Inch Nails kind of element as well. Are you fans of these artists? Have you been inspired by them? What inspires you from a visual perspective?
You mean from other bands?
Whether it's other bands or art or just life in general.
You know what? I anybody that makes me feel something inspires me. In the sense that if I'm looking at somebody and I get captivated by them, then it's inspired. If I forget about who I am, if I forget for a moment what's happening around me and I'm fascinated about something, then it's working. It could be, as you said, it could be football, because we both like football, right? We get captivated by Steven Gerrard, don't we? I mean, but when we're talking about music, I must admit I'm fascinated by Marilyn Manson, for example. I think he's a fantastic performer. I think he does what he does very well. I love the way he goes out there nowadays. I love Muse. I think they're a brilliant show. And there's loads of bands out there. I mean, I can start and never stop, but yeah. So I guess what I went and saw a show a couple of weeks ago of I'm not going to say which band, but a very big UK indie band, and they were doing the O2 Arena, and there was 20,000 people there, and the show just wasn't up to it, because it was just I would expect them to sort of be hovering and flying over the crowd. You see what I'm saying? If there's 20,000 people in front of you, you get, and it's just, I like to put on a show.
Well, you certainly do, and I also noticed that you're a big fan of one of my favourite bands from the 80s and 90s, a band called Sisters of Mercy.
Of course, yeah.
Andrew Eldritch, what a great artist.
Oh, he's amazing. He's amazing. I mean, he set the trend for basically the whole, goth and basically darker side of music. He sort of, took the whole cure element to another level with his vocal performance and mainstreamed it in a sense, because everybody knows Sisters of Mercy today. Obviously Sisters of Mercy are 5 different bands with Mission and all these things have happened. But I think he's a phenomenal artist, great songwriter, and he's still going strong.
So your new album, Happy Returns, I mean, even though it's dark, it's got a happy name for the album, so it's almost like a contrast, dark meets light.
Well, there's a bit of sarcasm going on, do you know what I mean? I happen to be writing that particular song and that record during the time where the whole sort of financial crisis was occurring, and everybody was... I was actually in New York, and I remember seeing a line of people, about 2,000 people, and I asked, what is that? And they were all waiting for to be interviewed for 2 positions in a fire station, and I thought, this is, you know, people are really in trouble. Do you know what I mean? And the whole Happy Returns thing became, as it was a visual concept at the beginning, because I thought we're going to be eating beans on toast with candles for our birthday parties soon, because there's just no money.
You
So
know, you can't get good beans and toast in LA, so that's a luxury.
you got to have your beans on toast. You've got to have your beans on toast. But do you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
so it was a little bit like that, and it's also about, you know, in the sense, not in the sort of heroic anarchist way, but there's a lot of injustice going on. Do you know what I mean? And the whole trend out there at the moment with reality shows and all that stuff that's going on, it leaves a lot of raw talent out there waiting, and a lot of people that, you know, a lot of stuff that comes out there and gets showcased and goes in the media that I don't believe is worth it. And you know, and I'm one of those frustrated people. So, you know, Happy Returns is a little bit about all that, yeah.
Well, I think you articulate your frustrations very positively through your music. And Livan, you're going to be spending some time here in Los Angeles. You've got some shows coming up. Maybe you can tell us a bit about your upcoming performances in Los Angeles.
Yes, we're doing a show in the Viper Room the 20th, and hoping it's going to be quite vibrant. The band's going to be really great. It's a really good mixture of musicians from very good bands that have all joined the Livan project because they like it, and we're kind of doing it as a band thing. So it's gonna be reminiscent of a lot of good stuff. And we're doing another show in San Diego, which I can't quite remember where, but we're doing another one in LA in Whiskey A Go Go, I think.
That's right, towards the end of September. In fact,
So,
you
yeah.
can go to livan.co.uk for all the dates, and of course you also have a MySpace page too that can give you additional information. But we're going to play another song from your album, and we were trying to decide what song can we play, because you've got some great material on this album. And one of my favourite songs was Shout from Tears for Fears, and so
My own version of it.
we figured, like, let's go with you know, that track. And of course, you know, you've got some great original material, but sometimes it's good to get a different perspective on a song that maybe you recognise or were inspired by. What made you want to do a reinterpretation of this particular track?
Well, I just think they're an amazing band. They were an amazing band. I'm obviously clearly influenced by the 80s. I thought there was a great musical era, and I think that they were an amazing band with great songwriting, and it's just a song that younger people haven't listened to because nobody's really covered it. So I thought I'm going to give that a bash.
Well, give it a bash, we'll give it a shout, and here we go. Live in here on Passport, approved on Indie 1031, a reinterpretation of the Tears for Fears classic. This is Shout, more Live in coming up after this.